This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening, councillors, and good evening, members of the public in the gallery and those joining by Zoom. This meeting is being live streamed via Zoom, and there is a link to the webinar is available. Recordings of the council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reused, or retransmitted without the prior written consent of the General Manager. The meeting is being recorded and made publicly available on Council's website, and persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any cumulative statements. And I will now make the acknowledgement of country. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug peoples, and respects the history and culture of the elders, both past and present. This evening's prayer is going to be led by Diane Coleman, representing the Christian Life Centre Church.
Thank you. Would you join me in prayer? Dear Father God, thank you for this beautiful day of sunshine and for the glorious part of the world that we get to call home. We are truly blessed. We thank you for our strong, close-knit community that support and look out for each other, and for the friendships that were so clearly seen at last Saturday night's markets. We ask that you would guide our council, that you would lead them to make wise decisions, that they would exercise good judgment in all matters concerning our town. May you prosper our region, we pray. May kindness, unity and peace be our focus during this special Christmas season of celebrating Jesus' birth, as we take time to consider the importance of this occasion. Grant our councillors good rest over the upcoming break, and that they would come back in 2023 full of focus, enthusiasm, vision and service. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Record of attendance, we're Councillor Watt is getting sick at the moment, and he is attempting to Zoom in, and he will join the meeting as soon as we can get him up. And leave that required. Are there any declarations of interest? No. There are no presentations this evening. The public gallery is open to members of the community, and the community is given the chance to ask questions at the commencement of the council meeting. And the mayor is to ask for questions from the gallery prior to the commencement of the ordinary meetings. Members of the public wishing to address council are permitted to do so, provided the following guidelines are adhered to. The person asking the question at the council meeting must clearly state their name and in what capacity they are acting. And if the person is asking a question is acting on behalf of another person or organisation, they must advise council if they have their prior consent or authority. Questions from the public. It's not an opportunity for debate with elected representatives or staff. It's an opportunity for the community to ask a question in relation to an issue or put a point of view relating to an issue that may be causing interest or concern. Due to time constraints, the time frame of 3 minutes per speaker is allocated. All questions and comments must be directed through the mayor, and in the instance of a question, if it cannot be answered, it will be taken on notice and given and the response given within a reasonable time. This is the only opportunity for community members to address council during the ordinary meeting. Now, I'm assuming that a number of people wish to speak concerning the D8 and mountain bike track. Is that true? How many intend speaking? 1, 2. Are this for or against? One of each.
Explaining our submission and support of the overall.
So one in favour?
And I'm opposing that.
Okay. Is there anyone else that's going to speak on that issue? It's my intention to bring that item forward from its current position in the agenda, and we'll, after we've got through the acceptance minutes, we'll then deal with that. Now, is there anyone else in the gallery who wishes to ask a question on any individual item? Yes.
Yes, my question is going to be relating to the pool.
Are there any other ones about the pool?
Just in support of, that's all.
Well, we'll start with the pool if you're happy. Please.
My name's Ruth Price, and I'm representing a number of people who have their car mission regarding the pool and the facility at the pool. There's a number of concerns which I believe the council is aware of, and these relate to management and availability and facilities at the pool. So since the YMCA has taken over the management of the pool, the opening hours have been significantly reduced. If you Google a website asking about pool hours, you'll find an old site, which is council site, which tells you that the opening hours are 7 to 9 a.m. and 2 to 7 p.m. every weekday, and 10 till 7 on weekends and school holidays. Currently, we only have Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 6 a.m. and 2 to 7, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m., 2 till 7, and only on Saturdays from 12 to 5 p.m. and close Sundays. So there's no mention also of school holidays in that text. So that's one of the big issues. It's much reduced hours, almost half of what we used to have. And so that is a concern for a number of people, I would imagine, including ourselves as people who attend the aqua classes. We go every day, every opening day, but recently they have been closed on Wednesdays and we haven't been able to access the class. So that's some people who can only come on Wednesday, and so that means they need it for the whole week, or in some cases 2 weeks. So my question therefore is, it appears to me that the pool is poorly managed by the current staff, the YMCA staff. Apparently it's a woman who, or a person I should say, who is based in Bathurst and manages both Oberon and Blaney pools, and therefore not a local ground, so it doesn't appear to be able to maintain and find new staff. So that was one of our biggest concerns, is the fact that it hasn't been open regularly. The other concerns we've got is, the website says clearly staff not being available to us. That's why it hasn't been open. We also it advertises a heated pool from bitter experience, and a range of your own staff attend to the pool. It is not particularly warm on a number of occasions, and notwithstanding the cold weather, my question is the heated pump fit the purpose, and is it maintained by council staff to the level it should be? The other question, which is not particularly related to aerobics, but there are swim classes are not promoted, and considering there's no classes for school children, our statistics for drowning in rivers and dams account for 34% of drownings, and a number of those, and a proportion of those are children. And so my question is, could we not promote the swim classes for the schools, which happens in many other fields? Young children, parents of very young children, cannot access swimming classes at the moment because there is the staff member who was taking classes doesn't appear to be there. They're often, and anecdotally, they're often cancelled, and they're not in hours which are accessible for people who have school children as well.
That's 3.5 minutes. So.
Yeah, that was my question. They're my question.
Mr. Lang.
Thank you for the opportunity to address you on behalf of the golf club in relation to the cycle track. The overall concept we support because of what it does for the community, bringing people to the area and providing opportunities for young people and older cyclists and so on to have reasonably good facilities. The original concept that was put to council and was circulated to us severely impacted the golf club, our parking area, our access, our first fairway and so on. And so we submitted a submission which used the existing track, that cycle track that was constructed there some years ago, and redirected that so that it didn't impact the golfers, and used in the street, and we thought gave a reasonably good concept that would be acceptable to most people, and particularly to our members and so on. So really, that's all I've got to say. That overall, we think it's a good concept. It can be good for the community, but we're just concerned that it would have impacted our members and our facilities. Thank you.
Good evening, council. My name is Michael Kantaris. I am born, raised in Oberon. I live at 2 Genolan Street, which is where the Fishery River Reserve is. Before I start, I'm hoping that Gary has handed out, or you as councillors have seen these, and if not, I'd like to hand those out if that's okay with you, Mayor. Did they get, have the councillors been able to see these?
Yeah, it's been provided.
Been provided?
Yep.
Wonderful, thank you. So I'd just like to say that in April, coming April, we've been at that house now for 40 years. It'll be in April. Our family has lived at that house. And I just want to share some of the experiences that I've had in that bush, because it is absolutely amazing. In that 40 years, I've been through there countless number of times, and it's never bored me. When you're walking through that bush and you're hearing cockatoos squawking, and you're looking around and you're finding out that there are 2 eagles flying above, that's quite amazing. When you're walking through the bush, and again, it's just seeing a hawk land on a branch that you're just happen to walk under, and it's looking at you. When you're seeing the fringe lilies popping out for the first time, the excitement. When you're seeing the largest ant that I've ever seen, the excitement that brings. And then even this evening, as I was walking my mother, again through the bush, as we often do, there were 2 kites or hawks. They weren't hawks, they were either kites or a falcon, 2 of them just hovering around us. Now, these are things that are amazing, because this is such a tiny area, the biodiversity in such a small area. And it only, I've estimated to be less than half a square kilometre. The area that the cycling track is estimating to be around about 32 hectares. It's tiny, and that is a small area, but the biodiversity is amazing. And that itself is its own selling point for our community. To be able to go, and that's including cycling. We also need to remember that mountain biking is completely different to cycling. Mountain biking, you do need people, and there are different types of mountain bikers. Myself, I have 2 mountain bikes, but I've never had the inkling to ride them through that bush. What I do, and I have friends that come from various parts of New South Wales, we go into the fire trails of the national parks, and you can ride for 20, 30, and we've done 40-kilometre tracks. It's amazing. This is a tiny little area that is going to be severely impacted by new tracks. I'm not disputing that cycling is wonderful, but it is different to mountain biking. Mountain bikers require tambouring, they might require jumps, they require their inclines. The objective for a mountain biker is the track. That's the challenge for a mountain biker. It is not the scenery.
Thank you, Michael.
And I hope the council make an appropriate decision.
Are there any other questions? Thank you. We'll move on. Item 8, confirmation of minutes from the ordinary meeting of the 15th of November. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. Oh, sorry.
Councillor Tucker.
Yes, I'm
Councillor Hayden.
happy to move the recommendation that the minutes be accepted. Is this works committee as well?
No, we'll
Just-
do that, sir.
Yep.
Councillor Tucker.
Nothing to add, Mr. Mayor.
Any other councillors? All in favour? Passed unanimously. And
Councillor Watt, if you can hear us, could you please turn the screen on because we can't see you?
Has that done it? Can you hear me?
yes,
Can you see me?
No.
Right, okay. I'll vote for that motion, but, and I'll see if I can find out how to share the screen. It's a format I'm not familiar with, unfortunately.
There we go.
There we go.
all right, that's good. All right, Works Committee meeting on the 5th of December 2022. Mover and seconder for the minutes, please. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation that the minutes.
Thank you. Any other councillors? Put the motion, all in favour? Motion passed. Now, can I have a mover and a second to bring item 35 forward? Councillor Hayden and bring Councillor Tucker. All in favour? Now, dealing with item 1305 on page 88 of this paper.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I would like to put forward an alternative motion.
what's that?
I'll read out what I have and then I'll talk
We
to it.
have an alternative motion before anything else.
Right? So, one, that council refused to develop an application 10.2022.46.1 for the purpose of a mountain bike trail. Two, an investigation be conducted to identify other potential sites around Oberon for development of a mountain bike trail, and a further report be provided to council. And three, a request be submitted to expand the time to spend the grant money and to utilise these funds to maintain the existing track at Fish River Reserve for walking and riding, and to identify and assess other potential sites for a mountain bike trail.
You bring it up.
I'm sorry, I need to get it from you or I didn't get it, I'm sorry. Wrong, that
Is that your motion? Is there a second? Councillor Tucker.
Right. I've walked this area. And I believe that the use is too intense for the reserve. And I don't see how mountain biking can coexist with the other current recreational users. And believe there would be more suitable areas around Oberon, such as Glenheight, which still connects to the bike areas. The current generic draft plan of management submitted classified this site as natural area bushland, and the use of sites for this classification, natural area bushland, has a strong focus on low impact use such as ornithology and walking. There is mention of mountain bike options, but does state would need to be carefully considered. In this plan, there would be 7 kilometres of tracks, with all under 1 kilometre in length, and with the increasing technical modifications that we're seeing with bikes, such as lighter frames, new braking systems, lower gears, it enables the rider to go faster. And with the increasing use of e-mountain bikes, the average speed on a single track would be up to 21 kilometres and downhill 27. I do not see how this would fit well with the other recreational users such as walkers and birdwalkers. The terminology used for the tracks are access, flow, dual, enduro, climb. And that confirms to me that speed is key for mountain bike riders. I would also like to point out that the Rocky Trail destinations would look after construction, signage, project management, and this point that I'm a little unsure of, delivery of training for local volunteers and schools to continue the maintenance. In 2017-19, Council had a Lake Oberon cycling trail working party, but without this, we now have the current existing network that is falling into disrepair. Volunteers only work for short term and are never a long-term solution for ongoing management. So this would end up having to be managed by council and not a network of volunteers or the school. I don't even know if the school is aware of this potential plan for them. I'm not saying no, I'm just pointing out that the location is not right. I would like to see other sites investigated so we can capitalise on the growth and popularity of this sport because it is big. And what it could bring to Oberon if we had a dedicated space that could long-term be used for events. And that's what people are seeking in the mountain bike area. They want to have good tracks, fast tracks, and a dedicated area. And I don't see this location or tracks or infrastructure being suitable for events. So that was the reason that I put through the alternative motion.
Thank you. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I agree completely with what Councillor Fernando has said. I also do support the development of mountain bike track in the Oberon area, but I agree that this is not the right location for it. I have no problem with retaining the existing tracks at that reserve and maintaining them for casual use, including by bike riders. But I don't agree with building new tracks, and I don't agree with promoting it as a mountain bike track. My 2 main reasons for believing we should refuse this application, similar to Councillor Tremba. The first one is environmental. It is clear from this report that we're looking at today and from what was put on exhibition back in about April, is that there are some sensitive environmental issues on that site. And looking at the business paper's recommendation 2, I don't understand the logic of saying, well, you can go ahead and clear 5,000 square metres and then do another assessment report. If that assessment report finds that we shouldn't have gone ahead with that first bit of clearing, well, it's already too late because it's already been done. And my second reason, also like Councillor Tremba, is the social impacts. I've seen for myself at another location the conflicts that arise where there is supposedly shared use between mountain bikes and walkers, and the bikes are just quite intimidating, and it just makes it totally unusable for walkers or bird watchers or people looking at the wildflowers, whatever it might be. I've walked that area many times. I've only ever seen a couple of casual bike riders. I don't have a problem with that. Mountain bikes are a quite different concept. So I do support the idea of looking for alternative sites, but not putting this facility in the only patch of native forest in walking distance from town. So I hope other councillors will support this motion and agree to look into alternative sites rather than this. Thank you.
Other councillors? Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I'd like to express that I'm in support of councillor Trembl's motion. I do feel that this is not the right location for this activity, and there would be more locations more suited to enduro and extreme mountain biking that has been shown throughout the DA application, and looking at those at the applicant as well, and they have one main focus, and that is all about trails. The constant rhetoric you see when they are doing anything is the importance of the trail for the mountain bike and not so much for our environment. And this is a very valuable green space that Oberon is so dearly and lucky to have within our LGA, because there's not many LGAs that have beautiful piece of bushland that can offer other tourists an area to picnic, to walk, to cycle, to look at all of the nature that's up there, the flora and the fauna. And I would like to say I just support Councillor Trembl's motion.
Any other councillors? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? 2, 3, 4, 5. Against? The motion is passed. So we'll now go back to item.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, just a procedural matter.
Yep.
As part of any development application, reasons for the refusal need to be provided to that. In the conversation that's been had, a reason being the location, it's not an appropriate location, the impacts on the amenity, the environmental and social impacts that within the proximity to town. Are you councillors happy with those
Yes.
reasons? We'll have them included in the document.
Won't that amendment now that can become a motion?
No, we'll put the
as an amendment.
had that not passed, we'll then go back to the original motion. Sorry, the original recommendation.
Pure procedural.
Okay, all right, item 9, the mayoral minute. I'll move in a second approval.
Really council what said on
Sorry?
that. Did council what vote on
Yeah, Councillor Watt voted against.
it? Okay.
So, Councillor Hayden. And Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Jason.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation to receive the report. I can see it's been extremely busy. And we can settle down.
Councillor Gillon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So you have been exceedingly.
We have.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Councillor Tucker?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. One very minor point on page 8, halfway down, it mentions that I attended the Oberon High School presentation day on the 6th of December. It was actually the Oberon Primary School on the 12th of December. Apart from that, it's completely correct.
I will draw and call the individual responsible. for that.
And I think Katie
And I
attended.
enjoyed it immensely.
Katie?
And
Sorry, Councillor.
I did the high school one.
Yeah.
We'll make sure that is amended in the signed copy of the minutes. Sorry, yes, fine. Anyone else? Put the motion all in favour? Motion is passed. All All right, notice of motion. 10.01. The motion is that council delegate authority to the general manager to seek legal consultation in relation to the contractual obligations regarding the management of the Oberon swimming pool and fitness centre entered into by Oberon Council and YMCA. Councillor Hay, you remove that? Seconder, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hay.
Yes, there's been a great deal of community awareness in relation to this and emails that have been coming into councillors and a lot of complaints from the community as well as the schools and different sessions that have been commencing. And I just thought this is extremely important. I know the general manager's note, and I'm happy to get this motion forward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This fits in with a note I sent to the general manager some time ago, and I know action is in place in respect to this motion already. I would ask that if there's any update by the general manager, that maybe we could have a briefing in confidential, because it will entail confidential legal advice.
Yeah, through the chair, that information is yet to be supplied.
It's yet to be supplied. Thank you.
Make any other comments about this?
My only comment is that it's in the general manager's note to say that based on the number of concerns, we've certainly had a discussion with our legal reps, and they're looking at that for us.
And I would only suggest that because this is so important to the community, it may not be necessary to foreshadow a extraordinary meeting in January if we do get advice that it's taken, because it's causing a lot of angst to the community. A lot of angst. As Councillor Hayden's already stated, I know all of us as councillors. So I'm more than happy to second the motion of Councillor Hayden.
Any other comments? Councillor McCarthy?
This taking the buy on, it's come from recommendation from the general manager's advisory board to council. And we took it up on a like for like business. And as the lady spoke to you a while ago said, it's not like for like. So my only concern is if we go and do something drastic, can we facilitate the rest of the year? My biggest concern, but that'll have to be a discussion later on.
So now I think we need to go to confidential.
Well, I'm aware of that.
I'm aware of what you're saying, but that's what it comes for, that these people were able to manage it better than what we were, so we took that option. And that's why we went down this path.
Thank you. Comments noted. Any other councillors? Councillor McKechnie?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, just in support of the motion, the amount of contacts I've had from people in town, people out of town, with concerns about the opening out and the availability of buckets. It's particularly gaining momentum that people aren't happy with it. The amount of complaints you get each day are increasing.
Yep. And
some of the main points around the fitness classes or the health or aerobics classes, but the one that seems more prevalent is that the learn to swim classes for infants or younger children before the school holidays is a real concern for a lot of parents, especially ones going to coastal areas in the school holidays and were hoping their kids would be able to swim before they went near water. So I think it's, the horse has probably bolted on us there. And I know there's been circumstances in other councils managed by the Y having similar problems to us. It's a number of circumstances we know, but we need to get on top of it, and I fully support the motion.
Anyone else? Motion, all those in favour? Motion's passed. Unanimous. Item 10.02, notice the motion, the O'Connell Recreation Ground. The motion is that Oberon Council name the O'Connell Recreation Ground as the O'Connell Recreation Ground and not after any past or present individuals of the area. Councillor McCarthy?
I'll need a second.
Councillor Tierney.
Yes, Oberon Council, went and provided this facility to the area. And I understand there's some pressure from down at the O'Connell area to call this after a pioneering family. And that family that's pushing to have this is calling after one of his own members. There are many old landholders in the area, the Burkes, Condons, Drowns, Savages, just to name a few. There's many more in the cemetery, some of the old people. When we go down this path, if you're going to call it after a certain person, you usually think that they've provided the ground. In this case, this ground was provided by the Oberon Council. You have places like Sydney Cricket Ground, Melbourne Cricket Ground, are just what they are. The Melbourne Ground, and what they name pavilions after the people that are relevant to the area. So that's why I put it up to start with the momentum down there to call this after a certain party who I don't think had an involvement in this particular bit of ground. So I'd like to try and nip it in the bud and call it the O'Connell Recreation Ground. And then, so we don't have this pressure applied by other people that want to name it after their family. Thank you.
Councillor Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I agree with Councillor McCarthy. I think that it's a good idea because it'll take the emotion and the conflict out of who it's named after and all that. And the concept of having some recognition for older residents or people that achieve, honours for different things can go on grandstands or memorial gates or things like that. And I think the whole complex should be called a general name, and whether it's O'Connell Recreation Ground or O'Connell Sports Facility, whatever. But I think it should be a general name, and then other if there are reasons for a memorial or for recognition of that, there's plenty of opportunity for that to happen in, as I said, in gates or grandstands or pavilions. So that's just my feelings.
Councillor Trimble.
Through the chair, Councillor McCarthy, I'd just like to ask why you put this motion up. It is known as the O'Connell Rec Ground, and everyone would assume that it would be called the O'Connell Rec Ground when it's formally recognised when the ground is opened. We seem to have a very keen interest in O'Connell, running road sealed, being taken out, and more recently talking about the Cox Road. The only reference to naming, and it's not been formally requested, in fact refers to the possibility of naming a structure to honour the local international cricketer Tom McKibben, who played in 5 Test matches back in the 1800s. There has never been a formal request from the O'Connell community. There is no momentum to get this named. It's known as the O'Connell Rec Ground by everyone. The money for the ground was provided on the express condition that the O'Connell community would get a cricket pitch. And it would seem fitting we get a structure, not a toilet block, to acknowledge a local international cricketer. So I find this motion just timeless. It's never ever been formally put forward to change the name.
Thank you, Councillor Trimble. Anyone else? Councillor
Yes, after reading that motion, I was a little bit alarmed after the conversation that I heard. It was only about cricket pitch, not about the O'Connell Recreation Ground, and majority of people in O'Connell call it the O'Connell Recreation Ground. So I'm a little bit confused about this motion as well.
Mr. Mayor, after the comment I made, do I have to disclose a pecuniary interest? Okay. I do now because I know what the issue is. It's been revealed.
You wouldn't have known otherwise.
Well, by suspicion, but yeah. Okay.
Councillor Watt.
So am I allowed to vote on that? I should not vote.
It's up to you. Remember,
I'd rather not vote.
Councillor Watt, your review.
Or I vote in favour of not voting.
I'm in favour of the sentiment behind the motion.
Councillor Graham?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It seems like really, it just as we call the O'Connell Recreation Ground, doesn't seem to be any argument against that. That seems to be what everyone calls it. So it's not really a problem, is it? I would support the motion, but I don't think we need to have the motion because there's never ever any issue about the naming of the ground.
Look, I'm of the same view. I just don't see what this is about. Everyone talks about the whole recreation ground. That's what it's known as. That's what we use in all our references in our documentation. It's just, we're just wasting 10 minutes, frankly. All right, I'll put the motion, get it off the books. All in favour? Motion done. All right. Delegate reports. Revenue 1, Black Springs Community Association. Recommendations of council delegates update of the 14th of November 2022 Black Springs Community Association meeting. Councillor Hayden and Councillor Payne.
Yes, this is just, you know, monthly update of the meeting, and the report basically speaks for itself.
I'm happy to second it. I wasn't at the meeting, but I've read the report in detail from Councillor Hogan, and I'm very happy with the report, the outcomes. Thank you.
Any other councillors? Put the motion, all in favour? Unanimously. Item 1102, the Opta Association meeting. The recommendations report item 1102 is received with information. Councillor Hayden and Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, once again, just a regular update and report on the Open Business Improvement Association meeting, and the report basically speaks for itself. Thank you.
Councillor McKibben.
I'm more than happy to second this, and in respect to the fourth bullet point out of and the business arising. I do note the Deputy Premier's recent announcement when he was at Genolan Caves about the investigation into the aerial access option for the cave. One assumes that doesn't necessarily mean helicopter, it's probably more a Doppelmayr cable car or something similar, I assume, but it's nice to have that investigation. I did speak to a former head of Genolan Cave some time ago who said that option actually been looked at 10 years ago, 15 years ago, longer, sorry, and it was actually looked at seriously then. So obviously they'll have to deduct the report, but it is good to see that it's being looked at.
Anyone else? All in favour? Motion's passed unanimously. Item 1103, Oberon Arts Council. Recommendations report 1103 is received as information. Councillor Graham. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Graham.
Most of the discussion at that particular meeting was about the reconnecting community. I think that there's one point that really doesn't make sense. I don't think that's what it's meant to say. It says look out for other grants. We look out for other events in the for that grant. So it was just to encourage Arts Council people and everyone else to go to some of those events that we're going to be on. Otherwise, it's fine.
Thank you for clarifying that.
Mhm.
Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to second the recommendation, and it's a good report, and I'd just like to say congratulations to the Arts Council on the display that came out for Malachi Gilmore Hall. It was very interesting, and I hope we get to see more arty stuff in the future. Thank you.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion, all in favour. Motion's passed. All right, Central New South Wales Joint Organisation Board meeting on the 24th of November. Recommendations of the council note report from the mayor on the Central New South Wales Joint Organisation Board meeting on the 24th of November, held online, and provide feedback on advocacy regarding flooding in the region. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. I did want to say congratulations to Oberon Council with all that flooding that had occurred. That was quite traumatic for those areas, but we've given some assistance throughout and around the region. So it's very good.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm very happy to second this report. Is there any update on the Wyangwa Dam and whether the business case? Okay.
Well, there is, and it's, you've noted back in the Mayor's minute.
Yes.
About the meeting with the shadow minister, Minister for Water, state government, and for example, she indicated that she was not opposed to it. She just thinks the business case is all over the place. It needs to be somewhat more focused.
So that's an update from the previous GAO, which I was able to attend.
Yeah.
So a slight update. Yeah, that's
So there's a bit of a
she's
shift in the way people are doing it. But I mean, Wyangwa Dam has just got a long way to go. A long one.
Because I know the comment halfway down page 20 was an observation. I think it was Councillor David Somerville, who said of Central West Water. Advocacy water utilities disaster relief as well as general purpose councils. Well, this is not currently the case. I was a bit confused about that, whatever that meant. You know, he's pushing very hard for the angle. All right, thank you. Yeah, happy with that.
And just to slide aside, I hope you get to chair a meeting like that with Zoom with 12. All the things. Made herding cats. A pleasure.
I'm sure that you cope very well, Mr. Mayor, if you took it of your stride.
The gentleman to go tell him afterwards.
Thank you.
Item 1201, the committee report. Oh, sorry. We'll put that 1104 to the vote. All in favour? Yes, passed. 1201 committee, Oberon Sports Facilities Committee, recommendation of the council note the absence of a quorum for the Oberon Sports Facility Committee meeting held on the 16th of November 2022, and note the discussions held at the meeting with the members present. Mover and seconder, please. Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Tremba. Councillor McCarthy.
Do we have to move the report? So we never, anyway.
Well,
Just a second dot point. The fields at the time when we had the meeting were just wet. Is there any chance of it being rolled now? I see one of the local people driving a forklift over the ground. So can the engineer have a look at whether we can roll these fields now, roll and level them out a bit?
Through the chair, certainly we can look at that following the conclusion of those events where the forklift was rolling across the field. Yes.
Thank you.
So yes, I'll second it. I was one of those absent from this meeting. I was away, so but it does cover just all the different areas that have been discussed.
Noting we didn't have any discussion about or indication who was at the meeting. How many sports organisations were represented? Looking to be about 3, maybe 2.
Well, rugby league was obviously there. Spiro was
there. That's right.
Was it tennis? Tennis was there.
And tennis.
Hockey.
Hockey. That is 3.
Was Stelly there?
Hockey and league.
Any Christy Thompson was absent from the Shire, so he normally comes.
All right. I'll hang on a quick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question about the 4th dot point recreation ground lighting. I'm just wondering if we still have a system in place that ensures that the lighting only goes on when there's a group that has made a booking, And it can't just be turned on whoever's going past at any hours of the night or morning and disturbing nearby residents. There used to be a system in place, but I'm not sure if it's still happening.
Through the chair, there is a timer system on that has been fitted. That's going back a few years back. And certainly, yeah, has that ability where you can't just switch it on. So there's, yeah, there is a mechanism there that like the events make or the group to make actually bookings that can be set. So it'll switch on.
You might want to check that is operating correctly. A few months ago, I walked past and the meter box was just open and everything looked to be broken, or what we used to have in place to operate the lights after hours was all broken. So you might want to check. But that was all, Mr. Mayor.
Anything else? Put motion all in favour? Passed. Item 1202, the local emergency management committee meeting. Recommendation for council to receive and note the minutes of the local emergency management committee meeting held on the 7th of November 2022. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. It's a very lengthy report. The management committee would have been absolutely flat out with our gas outage at the time, and I'd like to say thanks to everyone who had been constantly posting updates and keeping the community informed throughout that ordeal.
Good.
Yes, I think Mr. I endorse Councillor Hayden's comments. And I think the number of attendances required are actually, if you look at the Director of Technical Services, the number of LEMC meetings he attended in the last month or two is very high. It's exceptionally high. In relation to a matter I raised a few minutes ago, I do note that maybe I was mistaken about the aerial issue, because on the bottom of page 31, it does have the Genolan Caves reserves for the helicopter landing zone pad has been constructed. Maybe that's what's being considered by the state government.
That's a very small.
I know. I don't think it bring many people in.
It would be a.
Could they be a high net worth, I'd imagine?
I don't think it's for a high net worth person on that pad.
Oh, right, okay. The other thing I note, probably not related, but I note Cecilia Hunt from Resilience New South Wales advised that New South Wales is working with councils. I note there's been a change of the upper management at Resilience New South Wales. Do we believe that'll have any impact on us at Oberon?
Well, Resilience New South Wales is more of an observation system.
Right, that's what, yeah. Okay. It will have an impact in that we won't have that person on the LEMC anymore. What's going to occur, or we don't know.
I think the people who are in that organisation probably are confused as we are. But I think that my own personal view is that the resilience organisation is one that should be working in the future to make the state more resilient. And they were then the first thing that I had to do was to manage the floods, which is not what they were originally tasked to look at.
All right, I'm more than happy to second the paper. We watch this space in relation to that.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion all in favour. All right, 1203, the Traffic Advisory Local Committee meeting. Recommendations, minutes of the Traffic Advisory Local Committee meeting held on the 10th of November 2022 be received, and the following recommendations have been endorsed. One, the road indicator sign, that road indicator signs be erected on Shooters Hill Road to advise motorists of road closures of Abercrombie Road, and the council investigate the possibility of a fixed camera set up with Wi-Fi connectivity to relay live images back to Oberon Council website of the Abercrombie Bridge and Abercrombie Road. I'll move in a second, please. Councillor Tucker, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, it's an accurate record of the meeting. I'm happy with the recommendation with one query, and it's probably just my lack of tech knowledge, but it talks about Wi-Fi connectivity. When we looked at it previously, it was satellite connection. Is that the same as Wi-Fi?
No, it's not.
Okay, so whether we can amend that to satellite connectivity.
I was just say connectivity.
Appropriate, because then you give it like.
So I would minor amendment, if I can make that amendment. There we go.
Improvements. Yeah.
And that's all I have to say.
Councillor McCarthy, you happy with that?
Yes.
Yeah. Councillor Gibbon?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. While generally supporting the recommendations, bullet 1 and bullet 2, I don't believe at this stage a source of funding has been identified.
Through the chair, if council was to support these recommendations, the report would need to, when it came back, would provide.
Okay, fine, but we don't need to identify the source of funding now.
Through the chair, not at this point in time.
And we probably don't have the costings of both of those.
No, I don't
Okay.
know
So do we,
what that would look like, or potential for who else needs to be involved in paying for it.
so do we need a third recommendation that the general manager to come back to us with a report on this and with a costing and a proposed funding source?
What do you need? General manager, like,
Through the chair, council investigating the possibility of that says to me that we will bring a report back.
Okay.
to council there.
If we're happy with that, I'm just putting it up there as,
Yep.
if we need it, I'm more than happy to say that.
And just to add, Mr. Mayor, it was looked at quite a number of years ago and was surprisingly not outrageous in cost, and it could possibly be funded from the block grant.
all right, any other councillors? Oh, Councillor McCarthy?
Yeah, I endorse the report, and I'd just like to make one comment, if council allow us to. It's on traffic, but the people of Oberon need to be aware now that the O'Connell Road has got road trains going out on it, must meet the requirements. These aren't V doubles, they are two distinct trails. So you've got a longer vehicle now accessing these roads. So when you pass them, you've got to be aware that you might need a little bit more time, that's all.
Yeah, through the chair, there has been some changes to transport in relation to disability for, I think it's up to 26 metres. So they are on the network of the O'Connell Road.
Gentlemen, you've got to ask if we actually get that information out to our residents and they pay, because that's a significant safety issue. And coming across that at the wrong time, at the wrong place would be, you need to be forewarned.
Through the chair, will ask Transport for New South Wales to make that aware to community, and we'll happily share that on our socials.
Should we be more active in actually suggesting to Transport for New South Wales how they make the community aware? We obviously, as we all know, our community is uses different sources of information, which causes us havoc all the time, as we all know. Are we better? Could we ask them for signs either end or something?
Well, we got formal advice on this. Traffic to Transport New South Wales on this particular.
It should have been VW.
Yeah, through the chair, I don't have actually written formal advice from you, but so.
Well, if you can get some formal advice, we will then put that out to
How that would work.
how get that information out.
It is there.
Yeah, they're right. We'll get the information.
Yep. Anyone else?
Opposition, all those in favour? Motion's passed unanimously. 404 Heritage Committee. The recommendation is that the minutes of the Heritage Committee held on the 29th of November 2022 be received as information. The commencement time for the Heritage Committee meetings be 3 p.m. and the council forward a letter of the owners of the Ramsgate building congratulating them on the recent renovations that have been completed and seek a time for the committee to visit the property. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah.
I'm happy to move the recommendations 1 and 2 and send a letter out in 3. But I don't really think that asking someone to visit their private home, to visit the property regarding their updates is kind of really within thinking. It was a very difficult meeting, that one. I couldn't hear anything that was being discussed in the meeting due to the failures that had occurred that evening. Everyone could hear me, but I couldn't hear what was going on. But I'm happy to move the recommendation, but I do think that number 3 might need an amendment.
Well, do you propose?
Could I propose an amendment that council forward a letter to the owners of Ramsgate Building congratulating them on the recent renovations and omit the rest?
All right, is there a second for this?
Councillor McCarthy was thinking about.
Okay, you're right. Councillor Sharpich,
Yeah, I'm not supporting it, but
not supporting it?
oh, that was the recommendation from meeting, so.
Yeah.
And I'll have to wait, I can't talk to you.
So, Mr. Mayor, who moved this, the original motion?
Councillor Hayden.
No, I didn't move a motion. I just moved the recommendation.
You moved the recommendation, but you can't amend the recommendation. You moved it.
Oh,
Quite right.
Sorry,
That's right. You're quite right.
Someone else could do it for us.
that's right.
Can I suggest, in fact, that we leave that 3 as it is and from recent renovations and seek an opportunity for the committee to visit the property. It's a bit softer. And that allows them to define.
Or ascertain the owners whether they would be prepared.
yeah.
For the committee or something like that. Like, yes.
Otherwise, it just.
Only a
seems like
minor
someone
amendments, I think
dumped their
it
home
has to
onto the
be done
garden.
by the seconder and the latest man.
Well, yeah. You happy to put something like that in there, Councillor Duffy?
Yeah, I'm happy, I'd like to speak to it too, as well. Is right to speak?
Yep.
Okay. This Ramsgate building, subject to some of the people on the committee thought we were wrong that we actually wrote to the people and said how much it had fell into disrepair. With that, the owners stood back and looked at the building and they actually thanked the council. I think Shane Wilson might have been here at the time. And they said, visiting it all the time, they didn't realise that, you know, the cast iron had gone and there was lattice work up there and all the rest. And all it was is that I think what they'd like to do, what we've done with many houses, like at Squashfield, Quarry and a whole heap of them,
Yeah.
we'd like to go and just have a look around it. No impact on the people. We're not going to wheel them with a big stick. And it was just an interest from some of the people there. And that was a recommendation I passed on. That was all. I just can't see that, you know, I don't agree with some of the comments that are in there that how the chimneys are flashing and all that. But that's what you have when you have a meeting. But I think these people have done a terrific job. It looks great. People can pull up and take a photograph. And I think we feel proud that we'd like to just have a look around what they've done. That's all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
The only thing no, it's not appropriate, but I'm sure members of the community, including other councillors, would more than happy to go and look at the house. But it's not appropriate for this resolution, but I just make that observation.
well, we'll put together, gentlemen, put together a letter to the owner. And we will ensure the sentiment of the third point is conveyed. Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this? All in favour? Motion's passed. All right, reports for decision. Item 1301. The MOU between the Oberon Business Tourism Association, the council endorsed the proposed MOU between council and Oberon Tourism and Business Association. We'll move in a second, please. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Chipper, you. Councillor Hayden,
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation, good MOU, and it's just a part of regulatory procedures.
it's part of an ongoing arrangement between the organisation and council.
Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Chipper.
I'm just happy to second that.
Okay. Anyone else?
I think it's very good to have this in place, Mr. Mayor. I think it puts the relationship on some sort of footing, obviously, of memorandum of understanding, not legally binding, or commits everyone to absolute financial commitments, but it does set out a broad parameter of how the two organisations will work together. So I'm more than happy to endorse this because I think it's good for often it's good for council, it's good for the community.
Anyone else? Just an observation for the General Manager that the public announcement, the text says October 2022, or it's back to November 2022. Is that before we find it?
You fine?
I think, Mr. Mayor.
All right, item 1302, the bring your own device policy.
We haven't voted.
Oh, sorry, you need to vote. I'm trying to get away.
Distracted.
All those in favour? Passed unanimous. Item 1302, bring your own device policy. Recommendations the council endorse the bring your own device policy as presented. Kevin?
No, I'm just, I think it's better I don't recommend it, but it involves me.
Councillor Hayden and Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden?
Yeah. First, I'm happy to endorse the recommendation, the policy. But can the general manager confirm that this is not going to be mandatory?
Through the chair, this is not mandatory. No.
And will there be further consultation with staff members?
Through the chair, when things like this get endorsed, absolutely, our staff will be the secondary component, and that consultation will occur with those.
Okay, all right, then I'm happy to move that.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, this has been looked at in AREC as well, and I don't have a problem with the policy. I just had one question about process. Are we just endorsing it and that it becomes a policy straight off, or does it have to go on public exhibition, or has that already happened?
Through the chair, it hasn't been on public exhibition. It's certainly at council's discretion to place something like this on exhibition, should they feel amenable to do that. Given the process that we've gone through with our cybersecurity implementation, and this being the next component, it's recommended that we just adopt this. However, if council want to see a exhibition process put in place, they're quite entitled to do.
I wasn't proposing that. I just thought there might have been a compulsory process that it was required to go on exhibition if it's going to be a formal policy of council.
And that's where it doesn't have to be. We generally, well, for a lot of them that we do. However, this is a segue from our cybersecurity policies. Once again, if council of mind to place on an exhibition, council will place on an exhibition. It's simply a process that we'd like to see rolled out. It's neither or. If council want to put it on exhibition, I'm more than happy to do so.
Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As with the AREC meeting, I put on the record that I was not responsible for pushing for this policy. But as in the AREC committee, I was advised that does not give me any pecuniary significant or other interest in this matter. It's been looked at by AREC. It's been obviously looked at by this council. It's been formulated by our staff in consultation with our cybersecurity people and everyone. I don't think it's necessary to put this in public exhibition. I think that I would defer to any other advice from the general manager, but I think he just advised that he doesn't comment on public exhibition as well.
And through the chair, it also doesn't change our processes that we undertaken with our staff, because the process of having something like this used, it is your own device. So with your own device, you have the ability to say no. So those things are simply a matter of consulting with the relevant stakeholders.
Any more councillors wish to comment? Councillor Graham.
I think it's really good to have it all laid out like that, so there's no grey area. I think it's the policy good.
Councillor Graham, anyone else? All right, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed. Item 03, development application for a shed at 43 Scotia Avenue, Oberon. Notion is that council vary part C 5.5, building height plane, and part C 6.4, carports and garages of its current DCP 2001 in relation to development application 10/2022/81.1 for construction of a shed at lot 29, section A in DP 22364, being known as 43 Scotia Avenue, Oberon. And 2, a division being called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trembath. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation. That's quite a substantial block. Yes, it's a big shed, and it's quite clean, but it doesn't seem to be causing any significant issue with the joining numbers.
Councillor Trembath.
I understand what Councillor Hayden said, the location, the size of the land, and that is actually in the lower peak of the allotment, so I don't see any reason for it to not be fine. I second that.
Thank you. Anyone else? No one else? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion passed unanimously. Item 1304, contaminated land policy for land use planning. The recommendation is that council place the contaminated land policy for land use planning on public exhibition for 28 days, and submissions must be invited to council during that period. No submissions are received within the exhibition period. Policy be adopted as presented. Now, I would like to put a minor amendment in to start with and make that 8 weeks, so that's 56 days. And that is simply because that's over Christmas New Year period. No other reason. Councillor Hayden. Seconder, Councillor Keeler. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation and also the amendment to the eight weeks. This is a quite lengthy and substantial policy, and I think it's extremely important to have such in place, and I'm very happy to endorse that.
Good.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm also happy to have the public exhibition period. Thanks for that amendment proposed. The policy is really required by legislation, just following what is required by the legislation in relation to how to deal with contaminated land. It's, as Councillor Hayden said, a very extensive policy and deals with all aspects of potential uses that may have led to contamination. So I'm more than happy to second.
Anyone else wish to speak? Councillor Carthy.
Just a clarification for information. When we do development, we do that development under the EPA Act. Why is this policy necessary when they actually administer the same sort of thing? That was all.
Through the chair, Councillor McCarthy, when considering an application, there are other regulations and planning policies you have to consider, and the SEP 55 is one of those, and hence why it's incorporated into this policy.
don't the state government already do it? 'Cause I recall that up there on the corner of Carrington Avenue and North Street, contaminated, was led to believe contaminated site, so we had that processing place. Extensive cost to the ratepayer. It was found to be not contaminated. And I thought at that stage, the state government requirement required that to be done. And I thought that was already in place, that was all. But I thought this was only a duplication that was already in place, that was all.
Going through the chair, the SEP does allow some exempt development. And also the requirement for that property, you might have seen, was going from a commercial to a residential property, needed a clearance certificate. No?
Residential to say residential.
I think because the former use had possibly a tank on it, or it needed that clearance certificate to provide to take it off our planning certificates
Okay, thank you.
as a contaminated land.
Anything else, councillors? I'll put the motion all in favour. The motion is passed unanimously. Item 1306, alcohol-free zone renewal. The recommendation is that council endorse the extension of the alcohol-free zones for another 4 years, for a period commencing 1 March 2023 to 28th of February 2027. And the council places an advertisement in the Oberon Review outlining the extension of the alcohol-free zone renewal. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Gibbon. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to endorse the recommendation. It keeps our streets in an orderly fashion and keeps bad behaviour to a minimum.
Thank you. Councillor Gibbon.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is just extending the existing alcohol-free zones in the open council area, so I'm more than happy to second this.
Thank you. Other councillors? I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 1307, stormwater infrastructure in Richardson Park. Recommendation is that should attempts to clear the stormwater line not be successful, then council consider a further report outlining potential costs associated with A, excavating the line and relay, or remove the pipeline altogether and reinstate the natural water course, or block off and abandon the pipeline and reinstate the natural water course. Do I have a mover and seconder, please? Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And as I'm wrong, I think this was arose from an issue raised by Councillor Tucker. And he foreshadowed that if we were unsuccessful at that stage in clearing the stormwater line, that any of the 3 options may have to be considered. It's now been put forward by the Technical Services Director as the 3 options if we're not successful. So I'm more than happy to propose this, as it seems that something has to be done in this area, which we've already done. Thank you, Councillor Tucker, for raising it.
Yes, I'm happy to second the recommendation and agree with everything that Councillor Gibbon has also stated in what Councillor Tucker had raised in the past. I think perhaps we may end up going back when that's the water course on that, but I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of quick points. First of all, to mention that Richard, not Richardson. And secondly, just to comment that my best guess is that I think it's somewhat unlikely that it will be feasible to clear that quite easily. I think from memory, it may have been cleared a couple of times years ago and it is blocked up again. I'm not sure about that, but even if we clear it, I suspect we may be back in the same position again before too long. But if that's what we want to do, is give that a try at clearing it first, then I'm happy with that. Thank you.
Councillor Tremba.
Based on Councillor Tucker's comments then, that was my thoughts, as it's probably been done before. And I'm not sure why we would consider doing it again if we've not been successful at it. And I would propose that we amend it and we go down to the 3 points of A, B, C, of getting further report outlining potential costs before we spend any further money in this area.
I noticed I proposed this, but I would seek through you, Mr. Mayor, some direction from the Director of Technical Services as to what he believes in his expert opinion. The likelihood that if we unblock this drain, it's going to block up in the near term, and that basically we're only, if we continue to unblock this, we're only doing a continuous recurrent maintenance issue that is going to cost us more. We're ultimately going to have to do one of A, B, or C. That's following on from Councillor Trembart's, that I'm asking the question if I'm not proposing again.
Right, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, certainly as commented, there's no guarantee that it won't bog again if it is successfully unblocked again this time around. And the reason for that is, if you look at the photos in the upper stream and the natural waterfall, concerning nature of the material that is entering into the pipeline, then again, that and a number of bends within is where the points are that the sedimentation and rock don't build and clag
So
block the line.
So if I could, Mr. Mayor, then what is your recommendation for technical services? Do you think this is just a stopgap, quick fix? It's not going to last very long if we unblock it, and that we should go do one of A, B, and C immediately, or look or investigate A, B, and C immediately?
Look, at this stage, I think investigate A, B, and C pretty much. To get it running again would be good. However, in hindsight, I think that there's more work that would need to be done upstream for council's consideration if we were to spend more money in conjunction with unblocking that pipe to ensure it doesn't reduces the risk of it blocking again.
So if I could suggest an amendment, a minor amendment as the proposer, which would say maybe that the stormwater line be initially cleared, but then council consider further report outlining the potential costs associated with, so that, or we do the clearance, but we look at from what the
and provide a longer term option.
Yes, yeah. So what the Director of Technical Services, he agrees it's only going to be a stopgap from what he just said on here. So it's basically saying what Councillor Trembart said, but we do the clean out to get the initial problem out of it.
So just tidy this up a bit. Why don't I just propose an
Amendment,
amendment,
thank you.
which says the original bit down to further report outline potential further report providing long-term options for cost-effective drainage through Richards Park.
Any options for
Richard drainage through Richards Park.
the word before drainage?
Long-term drainage. Yeah, so the two attempts to clear the stormwater line not be successful, then council consider a further report outlining long-term options for effective drainage.
Happy go, Mr. Mayor.
Let's get something up on there.
Yeah, I'm just trying to use the,
Yeah.
Well, remember, Councillor McKibben moved the original and then wanted a minor amendment, so I'll try to make the amendment minor.
Well, that's why I'm.
Oh, sorry, yours.
So that he's not.
And I've just said the council attempt to clear the stormwater line and consider further long-term drainage options, including A, B, and C.
Second, the GM's motion.
That's
So that's.
through the mayor.
Yeah,
And consider
further report providing
Further-
long-term options for long-term.
further report
Yeah.
outlining long-term drainage options,
Yeah.
including A, B, and C.
Yeah.
Long-term- Just say long-term drainage options. Or just say long-term, I get options for long-term.
Sorry, why, where?
Providing long-term drainage
Long-term
options.
for us. Yeah.
For Richard Park, including.
You know, well, I know that, but I tend to do it. Councillor Tucker. Okay, anyone want to provide anything else? Councillor Tremblay?
I will probably, you know what? It's been done several before. Such a question, house has been flooded, you know, the directors pointed out that it can be done again, but it can't guarantee to change anything. So I really believe that we should go down the road of the recommendation for A, B, and C and cut to the chase.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think you took the words out of my mind. I was going to ask, we could do the long-term solution without doing the interim solution. If I could pull that, unblocking the pipe. How quickly could that be done? Noting we don't have a company on this stage. And what likelihood do you think actually unblocking the pipe that you will be able to unblock the pipe?
Well, we can't block the pipe, we have to dig. And it provides a short-term relief while we sort it out properly.
Yeah, effectively, that's the answer. In reality, I try to put a water clearer, I put water device down there to clear it. That'll be an interim measure, I think, in the first instance, but we'll probably try bringing back to every meeting. Hopefully, assuming whatever result I get, and with a recommendation for council's consideration moving forward.
But, I think Councillor Pembar's point is, would it be better not spending the money trying to unblock it and just use an excavator and tear the pipes out initially and have an open water course? That's putting it in rather crude terms, but I think that's what you're saying.
Thank you.
I'm unaware of the detailed geography in this, where this pipe is, and I don't understand how easy it is to actually do that. And that's why we have people who can provide that advice.
Yeah, so through the chair, certainly I could get down that path if it's unsuccessful. I could certainly block off the existing pipe and force the water overland as it would have normally flowed within that stormwater easement.
But I think that's sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly understand the point Councillor Tremblay is making, but just to explain it, it's not a particularly big job to send a crew down and have a go at clearing the pipe. It's not a matter of getting contractors in or anything like that. And my guess is the crew will probably be back at the depot by morning snowco saying we couldn't do it.
That's
Through the chair, if they're back in the morning, okay, saying that was done, it's achieved something.
But there needs to be long-term.
Yes,
solution,
absolutely.
Which is the recommendation.
Okay.
Thank you, Councillor Tucker. I think that gets got the chance.
Well, I'm going to put the amendment. All those in favour? All right, the amendment now becomes a motion. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed. Right, transport for New South Wales proposal for Oberon Street 40 km/h high pedestrian activity area. And the is that one, council wishing to participate in the 40-kilometre-an-hour high pedestrian activity option study, with a full report to be provided to council for council consideration, or council does not have an interest in participating in the 40-kilometre-per-hour high pedestrian activity area offer from Transport New South Wales, and advise accordingly. So we're going to do. So the two
I'm prepared.
I want to go first.
So,
Give it a hand up.
audio. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I would like to move that we accept the second option, which is council does not have an interest in the participating with the 40-kilometre-per-hour high pedestrian activity area offer from Traffic New South Wales, and we need to advise that we're moving that.
That's the ultimate motion. So you're moving it?
Yeah.
One of the seconder. Councillor
I'm
McKibben.
happy for.
Councillor. One of you put your hand up. Councillor McKibben, Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I've had a lot of feedback from a lot of residents that I've actually discussed this with our works committee. People are not happy to have a 40-kilometre-hour pedestrian area in Oberon's Main Street. The shops are in Oberon Main Street shut around 8 p.m. Traffic flow through coming from the east, travelling west at any time from 10 p.m, midnight, 1 a.m, 2 a.m, are at risk of being fined for doing 45 or 50 kilometres an hour. If this is in place, this has been put in place in numerous areas across the state. Some of them are now knocking it on the head. And whenever these seem to appear in communities, it won't be long and a traffic camera will then be installed as well along with it, because that is what's happening in all other areas. And that is why.
Okay, Councillor McKibben.
Things. I don't agree with it, because we want people to use the main street and we want people to traverse down it rather than using Dart Street, Albion Street or other streets to encourage them to go to our businesses. I have a fear that if we put this in place, bearing in mind that we are a small town, not a town that can afford to have a mall down its main street or anything else, we will be diverting people away from our main street, and our businesses need the business from passing travellers, whether they're going through here to Bathurst, through here to Mayfield, through here to Goulburn, wherever. And I don't, unless I'm wrong, I haven't seen any accident information or other information that indicates that there is a high incidence of traffic accidents or pedestrians being hit in our main street at this stage. Already, because of the issues with school zones in Blue Mountains and in towns through New South Wales, the government's looking at plans of trying to segment off schools so that the school zones don't go into major areas like the Great Western Highway. If we could see a need for this, if there was a high incident of pedestrian or traffic accidents in the area, I'd be more than happy to support it, but the evidence doesn't support that. So I don't see the need for it. Major town vicinity. Others doesn't have one. I don't believe Orange has one. I don't believe Lithgow has one. So, and we're a much smaller town. So I don't see the need for it.
Okay. Anyone else speaking for this motion? Councillor Trimble?
Yes, I'll support that bit, because I agree. There are no stats to show us that there has been any incidents that would require us to do a 40-kilometre speed limit. As you're approaching into the shopping precinct, you're already slowing down as you just into the shops, and I know that I could be down to nearly 30, but I don't want to be having to check my speedometer all the way through. So, and it was implemented in Liverpool, in Sydney, and it took a lot of public outcry and media intervention to try and get it rescinded, and it's still not rescinded. That was back in November. It won't be rescinded till January 2023. and it then became the highest grossing speed camera in the state because they introduced the 30K. So it's got a lot of things that go against it. And they seem to be picking off smaller country towns. So the women that presented this, they talked about Blaney, other small, and they talked about Oberon, but nowhere in Bathurst have I ever seen anything like this, and I don't believe in Orange. I've never come across it. So I don't understand even why we consider it at all.
Is anyone going to speak against this particular motion? Okay. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I feel there has been too much focus on the 40K aspect of this proposal that aims to improve the amenity and pleasantness for pedestrians in the main street. And a 40K limit on a section of the main street is just one relatively small part of that. The other point I'd make is that this is not deciding whether to implement this or not implement this. This is only a proposal to proceed with a study, and it would be when that study was complete, come back to council, it would come back to traffic committee, and there would be substantial consultation with the community at that stage before any decision was made to either go ahead or not go ahead. And I think it is worth proceeding to at least get the study done, and then we can decide whether it looks a good idea. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Watt.
I was just going to say that I don't see, haven't seen a need for it either. And I'd like other traffic calming options, which may also be consistent with the amenity to be considered. So I guess I'm supporting it, that I don't see a need for it, and I'd like us to consider other traffic calming options if there is a need for that.
Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy with the second part of it. I think if we went ahead and got the study done, we'd still end up at the same position and we wouldn't want it. So a bit of a waste of resources all around if we got a study done. And when we were given the presentation on it, some of the pictures we saw, yeah, they looked nice, but no one's going to sit in the main street of Oberon in winter for months on end. You look at the raffle sellers that sit in the main street, they bring their rugs and everything because it's so cold. So I don't think we'd ever really go with it.
Councillor Gibbon.
Thank you. Yeah, Councillor Graham has said something, a few things I was going to say, and I was going to say, obviously there's a cost of the study, and I don't think, we can justify it on the current feeling of the meeting. But also, the problem with these 40 kilometres hours is they're not our, in school zones, you have the 40 kilometres hours for certain set periods of time. When you introduce a 40 kilometre hour in a suburban area like this, it tends to be 40 kilometres 24 hours. So when we're leaving this council meeting, for instance, at 10 o'clock at night, let's hope it might be earlier tonight, but let's say at 10 o'clock at night, it means we have to go down the main street at 40 kilometres an hour, and not 50 kilometres hours, when there's probably, well, there may be no one else in the main street.
Look, I support the motion. There has been a pedestrian accident in Oberon in recent years, and that occurred at a speed of about 10 kilometres an hour. We inspected during council meeting, was it not? Yep. Someone was crossing over at the bank there on a pedestrian, stepped out in front of the car, which was doing a left turn. She got a bruised leg, and that was about it. And I frankly don't see any particular community group. So, Councillor Hayden, do you want to write a reply? It seems we've had a go.
I support the second part. I come up the street the other day, and when I looked down, I was just over 30 Ks, and I don't endorse what Councillor Watt thinks of using other traffic calming devices, because we have residents in the street, and if you've got someone like Ramsgate or above Cunningham's butcher shop, you've got a youth going up the street. First thing that happens in the middle of the night, dead of the night, is the toolbox in the back goes up and bang,
And you get this, that damn noise for no reason whatsoever. So I support number 1, 2, the number 2, but I don't endorse any other advice like council suggests.
All right, everyone's had a say, so I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? Everyone's in favour except for councillor Tucker. The motion is passed. 1309 borrowing policy. The recommendations of council place the draft borrowing policy 2212 on public exhibition for 28 days and submissions be invited to council during that period. If no submissions are received within the exhibition period, the policy will be adopted as presented. Mover and seconder, councillor Hayden and councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, happy with the recommendation.
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy with the recommendation. The borrowing policy went to ARIC in December. December, it was December, sorry. And there were some, there were some amendments made at the ARIC meeting, which I think were all very beneficial for policy, and adjusted some things which give us a little bit more scope in how we borrow, where we borrow, and in fact, in relation to our internal borrowing policy and the life of the asset. I think the only comment it made, and this was maybe an error in the general managers, on page 130, in the above 3.2 internal loans, 1, 2, 3 above, where it talks about external loans, that's 3 bullets above the heading 3.2, not be made for a term greater than 20 years or life of the asset. That's correct. If we go down to above 3.2.2, where we made the same amendment, not be made for a term of greater than 10 years, and it was 10 years, or the life of the asset, not of the life of the asset. You see that one? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines from the bottom of page 130. Not be made for a term of greater than 10 years or the life instead of old. Thank you, Councillor. I didn't note that. We spoke about that amendment, there's been a typo there. Yeah. And it might be better in both of them to put add the word the or the life of the asset. I particularly looked at those because I know there were a couple of the amendments we made. In relation to we added the council's information, the third bullet point under 3.1 at the top of page 130, which says other lending institutions as resolved by council, because there was a discussion as to various things that we might want to go outside the 4 major Australian banks, and the 4 major Australian banks may change, could become 3 if there's a merger, probably unlikely to be approved by the ACCC. And the question was, is the foreign bank? So that's why the third bullet was added there, just to give some explanation. So I'm more than happy with the borrowing policy as it now is subject to that slide amendment.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben. Anyone else?
And more.
All right, I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you, councillors. Item 1310, employment arrangements and organisational structure. The recommendation is that council endorse the proposed structure of changes outlined in report item 1310 and endorse a strategy whereby between 5 and 10% of the workforce will be provided by trainees and apprentices. Councillor Hayden and Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to endorse the recommendations in both parts, and it's very good to see. Very thorough report, so well done to the General Manager on that. And I just am looking forward to this strategy with the trainees. I think that's an outstanding idea and absolutely brilliant. So I'm very happy with that.
Oh, this is good. Second.
So,
Thanks, McKibben.
thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have, yeah, I read the policy. I too support the traineeships and apprenticeships. The only area I would like if the gentleman could just provide a little bit more clarity. I was having a little difficulty getting to what the bottom line was. We were going to be spending 120,000 extra, well, on everything other than the apprenticeships, just the existing, changing the staff structure as it's proposed in here. The net result, I assumed, was just about neutral.
Through the chair, page 140, with all those changes made, there's a net saving of $13,000.
Yes, but then with the traineeships, we're looking at 120,000, but we're expecting the government may come up the 100 with 60,000. So overall, if we go to the traineeships, it's going to cost us, could cost us in the vicinity of 60,000.
And through the chair, that there's a bit of water to go under the bridge in terms of how the IR provisions will look. Can I also make a comment that should council endorse this, it is not a proposal to put a $120,000 burden on this year's operational plan. It will be a phased process to have the right person in the right space at the right time. So we'll be looking, should this be endorsed, to include that and that philosophy around how trainees would work through 23-24. In that time, hopefully there'll be some more understanding about what the incentives are in that space. And that would give council another opportunity then to look at their options in regards to how we move this forward.
So if I could, Mr. Mayor, so when do we, I was sort of the impression that we were going to lose these trainee positions pretty well immediately.
Through the chair, we already have a number within the organisation, and I'm also critically aware of our operational plan and how it sits in terms of surpluses and deficits. But my intent was to bring it in as part of the 23-24 look. However, I will undertake the changes that have been made in the body of the report straight away.
No, I understood that, but I wasn't sure. I assumed you were going up to 100, the top of 140. Yes, that was going to be done because that's all existing. Yeah, the technical services and corporate services. But with the trainees, I was assuming maybe that that was going to occur. But you're saying not till 23-24, but obviously we have some budget for some traineeships, so they're already allowed for.
Through the chair, you already have budget for two of those.
Yeah.
Sorry, two additional ones. One has already been built. So there is one that we can work with now, and depending on the potential buy-in for that, then there's that opportunity to look at that earlier. However, I believe that that's going to take us into 23-24 anyway. So that was the intent of how the secondary component of grow your own was established.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm more than happy to explain.
Councillor Tucker. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was disappointed to miss the discussion on this last week, but I was seeing an email, but I wasn't aware that was happening. If I had known, I would have been here. Particularly since it's a topic that I've asked about on a couple of previous occasions that have an interest in. But most of the items that I would like to have a discussion about and not covered by this anyway. So I'm certainly not opposing these recommendations. I'm just flagging that sometime in the new year, I would like to have another discussion, particularly for those councillors who were there last week. Also for anyone else who wants to come back and have a second go, that's fine. But I would just like to have another discussion where I get a chance to go through some of the things that I'd like to ask about. There's too much to go into that. tonight.
And I'm more than happy to sit down with Councillor Tucker and work with that offline.
And I'm sure that's the case. I only had one question relating to this report this evening, and it's on page 138, where it talks about animal control officers, stock control. Do those officers only deal with animal matters, or do they deal with other sort of bylaw enforcement as well? Or, and if they don't, could it perhaps be expanded to include other areas of enforcement?
So through the chair, one of the ways that we in fact can make income is to give powers to rangers and go through that process. And that's what we'll look to, in fact, offset some of the income that's enforced by those provisions. So whilst currently they are only animal control and stock control, under a new ranger agreement, there'll be additional resources.
For example, things like investigating illegal rubbish dumping or things of that nature could then be covered after, or could be included.
Through the chair, the things that would absolutely assist council's operations are illegal developments.
Yeah.
Like, can you go out and have a look at that on your trip to see if there's a shed or a house being constructed because there's a concern, like those sort of preliminary things that take officers away and are always reactive. Those sort of things assist them.
Yeah, and that was of the things in my mind that I was wanting to have a discussion about. That was the only one that's really covered here. So thank you for that, and I'll get back onto that sometime in the new year when everyone's back. Thank you, Mr.
Councillor Watt.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, to the a couple of questions for the General Manager, please. Gary, could you provide a brief explanation of the forum for consultation between the councillors and their employees? That's the first question. And the second, I'm just not sure what you mean by in the fourth last paragraph on page 136 about a systems approach for regional learning and a learning ecosystem. I'm just not sure what you mean by that.
Through the chair, the information that was supplied was from the Australian survey that looked at skill shortages across local government. The key take-home message from that document is in bold and highlighted, where it says a key take-home and a recommendation as a council need to be wary of constant and ongoing skill shortage, and the need to build a resilient and interchangeable workforce is something that we need to really start looking at, which has led us to go down this path of a grow your own, giving trainees and for lack of a better word, graduates that opportunity to understand the fabric of all local government rather than just different bits of local government. So they get an understanding and an overview on all the things that we do in that space.
Thank you, General Manager. Just the consultation forum, is that, could you explain that again? Sorry, through the Mayor.
Through the chair, I think that Councillor Tucker was talking about just having another opportunity to discuss certain things in that space. Is there anything within the document
about the consultative committee, Councillor Wood?
Yes. Sorry, is that related? So the consultative committee is a statutory requirement whereby staff get a dealing with IR matters, and we work generally consultatively in that process, whereby anything that we bring goes to a committee. It's a committee established by staff members, and we deal with these things at a staff level as well. It's a requirement under the award that basically runs how people are paid in local government.
Thank you.
Any more questions or comments? No more, I'll put the motion. All those in favour? That is passed unanimously. All right, 1401, monthly activity report for the general manager. Recommendations, report item 1401 have received with information. Councillor Hayden and Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation that the report's been received, and it's a very thorough report, and it's been a very busy time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hayden. Councillor McKibben.
Mr. Chair, I'm more than happy to second it. I can't recall this, gentleman, if you could remind me, the ARIC meeting, which is, I could comment on page second, halfway down page 2. I can't remember whether the new independent member was appointed or was appointed stuff that was the recommendation to this council.
Through the chair, the appointment of that particular person will be made at the February meeting.
Okay,
When the ARIC minutes are presented to the meeting.
Okay, I thought it was going to be this meeting, sorry.
Through the chair, time got away from us.
Okay, that was my question. Okay, and we are, I think we could advise that we are looking for another member of the committee, and we are going out to an open process to find out.
The recommendation to council is we undertake an open process in securing that.
Very acceptable. Is that going to give us sufficient time? Because again, I thought that might have come up for this meeting to allow the process to start. I think you indicated that, or it was already started.
Through the chair, there is a process where pre-qualified people are able to be sourced, and we will look down the path of that nature. I will also start an open recruitment prior to that.
Okay, thank you.
Meeting. However, it's just trying to work with the ARIC in terms of delivering what they've asked us to deliver.
Okay. Apart from that, I'm very happy with the report. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor McKibben. Anyone else? Councillor McCarthy.
Just don't know where it fits under last column on 147, but I saw the information going back and forth from the manager to and Mr. McKechnie, Councillor McKechnie, did resolve to get rid of the blackberries on the Tasman estate that is the residue of the land, like the thing.
That's through the chair. That's been undertaken as well.
It's done.
It's been done by advice. It's in progress.
It's in progress. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor McKechnie.
Yeah, I just got a question. I'm having a little trouble understanding the table on 145 in our staff movement. Not exactly sure how it's put together, but September we had 77 total. We've lost another 2 since then. In employee separation, we've actually employed 10, but we've only got 4 more in total. So we're reading that. Confusing myself.
Through the chair, can I take that on notice and get back to you?
Yeah,
I think that 7 might be.
Sorry,
can I please take that on notice and come back to you?
Otherwise, we could have some more. Probably 1, I think, but
4, 10, 4 more is 2, yeah. Through the chair, I'll take that and make it and get back to you. Thank you.
It's not a big deal.
Well,
Here's when it's 7. It's not a big deal to me. Thank you.
Sorry, Mr. Mayor, if I could just a quick one. I know you had a meeting, General Manager, with the Forestry Hub 148. About 2/3 around Forestry Hub, catch up with Hub Manager, any update on that?
Yeah, through the chair, this is the Forestry Hub manager. As council is aware, we are part of the Central West Forestry Hub. I met with the director of that group, who is looking at ways in which the hub can assist council in providing studies and strategies when we are going through certain things, especially in the road construction and the impacts on council's roads. The hub is in fact endorsed a strategy now whereby there'll be significant benefit to council to get an understanding on the real costs of forestry vehicles and others alike on our road networks. And it'll be great to see what that comes of that when we then start talking to the state about impacts on our road network and what that means for our local government.
Good, thank you very much for that update. I wasn't aware that occurred, but that's now very important to council, I think.
Right. I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 1402, planning and developments. Recommendations report. Item 1402 is received with information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trimbath. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation of the report, and it's good to see that it wasn't long after our Works Committee meeting where the running loader was obtained from Orange, so I'm very pleased to see that, and I'm pleased to see that there's anticipated works at the Reef Primitive Camping Ground in February as well. Very good, thank you.
And thank you. I'm happy to second the report.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Also just a quick reminder on the point that Councillor Hayden just raised about the front end loader, that I asked the General Manager for some further information about what impact that will have or not have on our other capital works and running costs. So I assume that'll come back through reasonably soon.
This week.
Thank you. That was all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I note halfway down page 149, the comprehensive land use review is going to occur in February 2023. Again, obviously this is the whole land use strategy review and noting the areas we have to look at. It may be a good time that we need to refresh councillors on all the appropriate documentation that goes into that, because I think the last training we had on this was probably when we were all appointed as councillors originally, and it's probably all forgotten a bit by now. Yes, so I think before we go into this in full thing, we might need a review a session, because I certainly get a bit lost with it sometimes. All the different acronyms. On 151, 152, and I just wondered if the Director of Planning and Development, we've got some of the applications lodged in the table on page 151, 152. I think we're varying between some 3 months outstanding since the information received date, i.e. we've now received information, and some out to 2 months. That's probably our worst case scenario, is it, Director? Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Through the chair, that's correct.
And do you see that because we had, I think, fewer applications, sorry, in November, and I'm assuming, is that also permeating into December on current statistics?
Through the chair, yes, it is, and we are working our way through the older applications.
So we're hoping to get these ones out of the way to reduce it back to 6 weeks at max. Is that correct?
Through the chair, that's correct, yes.
Okay. All right, and you're confident we'll be able to do that soon in the new year?
Through the chair, confident and very hopeful.
Thank you. Thank you. We will watch with interest, but I'm sure that if the number of applications coming in, we can confident you'll get there. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'll move the motion. All those in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 1403, Pension Services Activity Report. Recommendations report item 1403 is received with information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor Trimble, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm very happy to endorse this recommendation of receiving this report. Our technical services director needs to be commended on all the work he did during the gas outage and the amount of meetings and the organisation of the shower block that the community were very appreciative of. And it's been a little disappointing with all the weather impacts and how it's damaged our roads and our infrastructure with our causeways and everything. So hopefully with this bit of a dry spell, everything can get back on track, and I'm very happy to endorse that. I'm blinking. Oh, the lights are on. No one's home.
I'm happy to second it and compliment the director and his team as well on all the work that's in this report, but over the year, considering all of the weather hazards that we've had in the gas. But in particular, I did note in your employment arrangement for the organisation structure, Jen, that in this area there are 8 agencies, which must create a lot of challenges. That's probably about 20% of the team. So I think considering all the work that has been done and is being done and keeping on top of everything, I think it's just a great effort for you and the team.
Thank you. Councillor McGinn.
Yes, I'll endorse the comments of the previous 2 speakers, Mr. Mayor. And I was going to ask, obviously we've had a continual impact on Noonan's Hill Road when we just about get the thing complete and we get locked away again. I suppose that my first question was, what's the cost impact of that likely to have? Because I know we had received a grant for that, but with the number of problems we've had, are we able to recover anything that the state government disaster fund or that any additional costs over and above the grant amount? And the second question is that with the amount of damage noted on page 160, 161, and with the photographs that are throughout the report, including the Arkstone Road, the Silver Creek Road, Native Dog Creek, Waterway, etc. How many of those roads have we actually been able to get back into an operative state? Noting that the damages cost well over $1 million, I think it said on page 160, and without immediate state government assistance at this stage, and how much is it going to cost council to do that if we, because we've obviously got to do that before we have any surety that we're going to get state government assistance for all that work outlined on page 161, for instance.
So through the mayor, in answer to question 1, back to Noonan's Hill Road, it's unfortunate, yes, in terms of how many impacted flood water we had during that construction work, certainly did have an impact on the budget. We are working with Transport for New South Wales to pay a disaster assessment to see whether we are eligible to get some sort of subsidy or claim back for that work. Given that it was new work in progress, may be the challenging point of discussion. However, that's in progress with Transport for New South Wales as we speak.
Do you have any idea of quantum today?
In terms of cost, yeah, look, it's certainly been doubled, if not a little bit more, in terms of the original budget estimate, and that funding has been subsidised from the environmentally affected roads at the stage from this point in time. So it's something that we couldn't just let sit on and not do anything, and certainly the impacts on residents down there, and trying to get this up and running and constructed and open to facilitate traffic and or in some cases cattle movements. So the road is now open to residents. In answer to into question 2.
Sorry, if I could just on question 1, if I could, Mr. Mayor. So to what extent have we had to delve into the environmentally affected road fund? 1.3 million?
No. So in the original budget for this crossing, it had about an $80,000 budget. What I'm saying is it is around about 160 as I know it, just indicatively. That's not a finite or final figure. But certainly it has had a new cost line, using some of those environmentally effective funds, which were.
Even for certain road, 1.16 million.
Well, there was a portion in for other work on Newton's Hill Road that we've delved into to bring it forward to assist this project.
Thank you. And question 2.
So question 2, yes, effectively a lot of work has been undertaken in a lot of means temporarily to get those roads open. And Natty Dog was one of those roads that did have an impost to a lot of residents having to go quite an extensive distance around to make it back into Oberon. So that was an immediate work, which again is susceptible to, if we do have more storm events, potentially wash away. But again, being assessed through Transport for New South Wales, and then after disaster funding arrangements, that estimate certainly is exactly that. And we are trying to work towards a final figure and approvals to fix some of those structures on those roads. Grading and alike and immediate restoration as best we can, yes, has been undertaken to a point where they're traversable, a lot of these roads.
So anyway, saying $1 million time, is it reasonable guesstimate of what all these ones on page 161? I'm assuming that doesn't include the bill.
No, it doesn't have Newton's Hill listed on there, but yeah, look, it's an estimate.
Right. And do you think that there's a more than 70% chance we'll get that back from?
That's an unfair question.
Okay.
If you want detailed figures, give the technical service director an opportunity to factor into.
I'm happy, but yes, but at the moment we could have a liability that we don't have it. We don't know whether we're going to be subsidised.
Absolutely.
Okay. I want to understand what he has to do in 1 million, so I'm assuming we'd have to be bear that in mind.
Anyone else?
It's good to see Newton's Hill profitability. It's easy bypass if there's an accident out along the Sydney Road that you can cut back across that way. I don't know if anyone's seen it lately, but the long area of the grass down there has been mowed and it looks terrific. And I don't know who done it, but we'll give the council credit for it. There's a place up in Carrington Avenue that had long grass on the footpath and near one of our parks, and I think it's been ripper snipped. So let's give the council credit. It looks great now. A lot of the people are just saying that how bad the owner of the property is. Grass up this high in the main street of Oberon, but anyway, let's give our council staff the credit for doing it. Anyway, thank you.
Will do. Thank you. Anyone else? I'll put the motion. All in favour? Pass. Monthly activity report for corporate services. Recommendations item 1404 is received as information. Councillor Hayden, Councillor McKibben. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation for a very thorough report. Congratulations to Matthew Red on the birth of his new bubby, and it's been a very, very busy couple of months actually, with all the events and end of year spectaculars from community services that need to be commended on the just recent weekend. It went off absolutely brilliantly. Skate park, stargazing, fishing, anything and everything that's occurred, and fun run. It's just been absolutely brilliant, and I think the community has enjoyed every bit of it. So,
Councillor McKibben.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I endorse all the community services committee and council staff for the spectacular markets and for the other events that have been held. They've been absolutely great, and they've done a magnificent job in unifying the community after such a long period of COVID and people tending to be a little antisocial. So it was great to see the street, Oberon Street, in absolute, so many people on the weekend. It was fantastic. Voting a large number of councillors were also present. I'd also like to commend the Chief Financial Officer for the rating workshops that have been held. They were greatly appreciated by, I think, all councillors. Obviously, councillors had some disparate views on things, but that's good. But the information was there, and I think it was pretty clearly explained. So we commend those. It's also good to see that open office has finally been completed with the finance group. And I was a little interested to understand the hypercare session in January.
So through the chair, sorry. The open office project hasn't been completed yet, but we are at a stage of a good test database to ensure that it will work for Oberon Council and making sure bits and pieces are done. The hypercare session is around open office providing us with 3 staff members dedicated to us. So when we go live and do our user acceptance testing, we have dedicated people to assist us in through that. So if there's any issues that come up, we are still functionable. We do not have to say, hold on, we've got to go figure this out. We have specialists contactable straight away to get our problem solved so that we can continue to function as council in whatever matters do occur. We have also flagged rating is a big thing. So we have also flagged the need for us to have a hypercare when we are raising our rates in the new system, and to have that continuing support throughout as well.
There certainly might be some hypercare if rates go up anyway. There may be a few defibrillators needed. Thank you. Sorry, I'm more than happy to second this report.
Any other comments from the councillors? Motion, all those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 1405, statement of investments and recommendations. Item 1405 is received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to use the report. Yeah.
Councillor Tucker.
No further comments, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Councillors, any questions, comments?
My only comment is that it's good to see that we're getting a bit more interest and that our rates have gone up to 4.7%, and that actually we're interest received 77,967. So that hopefully should assist our budget position.
Yeah, it will, and we've been in the fortunate position when we are placing, through the chair, when we are placing our term deposits, you see that the lightest ones back when they were placed in September 21, we were only receiving 0.15% of interest. We've now got the opportunity to utilise our money to get 4.7% of interest as well, which is very good for council.
Okay, I'll put the motion. All in favour? That is passed unanimously. Grants monthly update, item 1406, and recommendation is that item 1406 is received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Gibbon.
Yes, I'm happy to move the recommendation to the degree it's still flowing and in the green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm happy to second the recommendation. I do note on page 178 in the top row, I believe the stronger country community, that should be round 5, not round 4. And I believe that there was an amendment to the amount of the solar panels, which I did do in my note to the general manager on the status of things. We had to reduce that to 100,000 because of advice received that solar panels on this building would not fit the criteria beyond that. So yeah. And I'm assuming that we have submitted our betterment fund application by the 15th for Oakstone and Campbell's in the West.
Through the chair was done on Friday.
16th. It said it was meant to be in the 15th.
So it was done on Thursday.
Thank you. I hope it was done on Thursday because it would have been too late.
It was included within the time.
Okay, thank you. we have no further updates on any possible announcements in relation to round 5 and if it is straight. But I think probably country communities round 5, obviously the council applications and the local community group applications. Okay, I'm more than happy with that slight amendment to second this, and I'm assuming that the proposal will agree with that slight amendment in the information session. It's not a recommendation.
Okay, anyone else with anything to add? All right, I'll put the motion, all in favour? Motion is passed unanimously. Item 1407, water and wastewater plant report. Recommendations 1407 was received with information. Secretary? Councillor Tremblay, Councillor Hayes. Councillor Tremblay.
Wasn't I seconding it?
No, you always your way.
Fabulous. I'm happy with this report and I don't have any comments.
Thank you.
I'm happy to second it, and then look at that, we're still at 100% for the open run.
Any comments? Recommendation, all those in favour? Passed unanimously. Item 1408, monthly update, status of council resolutions. Recommendation is that item 1408 is received with information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Tucker. Councillor Hayden.
I'm happy to remove, I'm happy to move the recommendation. Remove it.
Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to second it. I personally didn't have any particular comments this month, but I did know I haven't been through it thoroughly, but I've seen the email from Councillor McKibben with a number of points to be clarified or whatever, so I didn't speak, but I haven't had a chance to go through them in detail.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have put a number of suggested changes in it, some of them including dates for when things will happen because that have been going on for some time. So I've lost track of, for instance, with row 1, which is 12-200-721, when the correspondence was received by the minister and when we're likely to reply to that, for instance, and a few other comments that I've made throughout that I thought needed updating.
Just for council, we'll revise it as part of the February update to provide additional dates where we understand them. My comments in that regard is that the status report is something that's put together well and truly in advance of when the council meeting business papers are prepared, and there's updates that occur. That is why we have Good News Week. It's why we try and keep our councils informed of those type of things. But we'll do a review of those things for February and come back with dates where we're at.
And I agree that some of them will probably post, say, 10 days before, but for instance, the business, the grants for our land development activities we put in, or we were waiting on those some time ago. And the JRPP did have a meeting, and there are a few other things. So I agree the Telstra one was probably subsequent to, I agree with that one, but there are some there that I think could have been updated. And I think the dates, it's just dates for some of them is that we don't know the dates, and by the time we look back at this, yes, the applicant advised council decision, so the sale of Abercrombie Road issue. That's been going on for ages, we all know that. But I think it assists us if we say the applicant's and council's decision on this date, and no information has been provided by the applicant since that date. So then we know, well, it's all in the applicant's hand. He hasn't applied for 6 months, and then we've got to decide, we may decide in the future, well, he hasn't applied for 6 months. So what do we do about that?
That's been on the books for quite some
I
time.
know, I know. And that's why I'm just asking we put dates in.
To encourage an applicant to do their job is not our role. But certainly I will, where appropriate, put those dates that give councillors an understanding of where things have been received.
Yeah, and in relation to the rock walls, I think Good News Week, one of them said the footings commenced on 24th of November, etc. So all that.
Just through the chair, there's also 2 rock walls that we need to be mindful of, and the information that you supplied was not relating to the resolution of that. But once again, I'll update that when we have in the February meeting, give an understanding of.
Right.
Anyone else? I'll put the motion, all those in favour? The motion's passed unanimously. There is no urgent business. In accordance with the Local Government Act of 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation of 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business is of the kind as referred to in section 10A2 of the Act that should be dealt with in a part of the meeting closed to the public. Can I have a mover and a second to move in the confidential? Councillor McKibben and Councillor Hayden. Would you stop recording, please?
This meeting is being recorded.
Good evening. The council session has returned to open council. During that time in closed council, there were no non-council people present, either in the chambers or on Zoom. During that period, item 1601, a write-off request for debtor account 996.01. The council resolved to not write off debtor account 99601, but instead offer a deferral and extended payment plan in accordance with the mayoral memo for a full cost recovery to assist with the residential contribution towards installation of curb and gutter works, noting the acute hardship of the applicant. Item 1602, water write-off request, assessment 123585828. Council resolved that council did not write off the water consumption charges for assessment 123585828. Item 1603, the council accept the tender submission. 1603 was a road damage tender for partial stabilisation service for Abercrombie Road damage. The council accepts the tender submission T 2022/9 from Stabilised Pavements of Australia for provision of providing partial stabilisation service to assist in the delivery of Abercrombie Road damage repairs under the New South Wales Natural Disaster Immediate Reconstruction Works. And the General Manager be authorised to sign all contract documents. I thank all those who have attended via Zoom and in the gallery, and I thank the councillors for a year of good constructive work. Have a Merry Christmas and have a good break, and I look forward to seeing you all back in the chambers on the 21st of February 2023.
Bye everyone. Merry Christmas.